Okay. So my name is Mark Chavez, and I want to thank Richard for inviting me to talk at the symposium, and Ken, Ingersoll, and Rudy, EC, and the other sponsors for hosting this event. I'm, as Richard said, from living in Singapore. I've been there for 5 years now. In the School of Art, Design, and Media. We set it up about 5 years ago. We just moved over there 5 years ago to set it up. I left the animation industry where I worked in console games. I was at DreamWorks for about 8 years on working on feature films, and then I worked in Rhythm and Hughes visual effects studio doing a bunch of movies. I've got like over 50 movies in visual effects and animation. It's my background. I'm right now living in Singapore. There's a picture of Singapore. I live right about here. There's a big shooting range right here. It's kind of there. There's 2.5 years per every male has to go to be in the military for that period. But anyway, our university's there. It's one of the top technological universities out there. It's rated in the top 100 on the Times Education QS World University ratings. There are about 4 million people living in Singapore, 80% Chinese, 15% Malaysian, 5% Indian, and expats. I left the industry to take advantage of the opportunity to work in academic research environments with the best and the brightest in Southeast Asia and internationally, trying to create something new in my area of focus. Interactive digital media, or everybody has an acronyms out in Singapore, IDM, is an area of strategic focus in Singapore, and the government has committed hundreds of millions of dollars to research and industry in this area, with a larger national R&D spending target of at least 3% of their GDP by this year. NTU is Singapore Science and Technology University, as you can see here. And so I used to have a site, and it's still there, called clone3d.net, and it's still online. It gets a handful of hits, and I have a little company with it, but it really was not much of a company because I wasn't really supporting it. I didn't create a product. I just had to come with a demo. I was hoping that I could go around to EA or these big companies and try to sell the characters on it, or just the whole concept of doing virtual characters. And so I put up these characters, and basically they people go in, and because of my background in animation, the characters are very voluptuous, very they have an appeal. What they call is appeal. There's a quotes from Disney animators about what appeal is, and all the way going back to Eisenstein, you're talking about appeal, a film historian and theorist. What I used at the time when the experimentation was haptic, like some other people spoke about, or their emotion engine to animate from sub-pose to pose. The engine enables the character to switch through a number of base expressions, creating the illusion of process thinking, using chaos theory and parametric animation techniques as a basis for motion. The software created an animated characters whose motion design resulted in ever-changing character performances that could be shifted to express particular emotive characteristics like confused, happy, confused, angry, and other more generic emotive types, as well as performing pre-recorded audio or speaking via text-to-speech. But the only problem is that it's really good for talking heads, but it's not set up for anything else, so you can't rig a character. It's just a really difficult software package to use. And working in all these studios, I'm just used to working with really good tools, and so I just couldn't work on that system anymore. So I didn't do any more development in that environment. So the goals at the time were to create really appealing agents, non-linear narrative, and multi-targeted intelligent computer interface. But basically what I got was like this guy, some guy from who drives a truck who just bought a computer because he wants to search porn. So, and then he'd go into this site and he would talk dirty to the character, and she would tell him to get lost, basically, or tell him jokes. Again, you can't really support that kind of stuff. I didn't feel like this is something I wanted to do. So I used to, the earlier project goals was to create a narrative cinema that, so what I want to do also is create narrative cinema as the ability to spontaneously generate discourse, integrating a free-flowing conversation with elements of design. That's kind of what got me, what spurred the current research with the old. I was building into a multi-targeted intelligent computer interface that would allow me to create dynamic sets of agents for education, entertainment, and creative content analysis. Now I'll talk about the current state of my affairs and the research project, Cinematics and Narratives. I'm currently at a 1-year mark on ongoing research. I got funded recently from the National Research Foundation in Singapore, so I have about 11 people working for me. I've got 3 co-PIs, we'll see later on. The research attempts to create a real-time professional movie authoring toolset, a system that changes the content of the narrative stream to manipulate the emotions of an audience, but it's looking more towards the visual aspects of the narrative stream, right? Not so much looking at ever-changing dynamic, like chatbots do. But I do want to put a little degree of variance into the way they communicate. So the system, I want to create this narrative stream to manipulate the emotions of an audience and to use the system to determine how aesthetic design matches an emotional design layout of a given cinematic work of art. The goal is to significantly explore approaches to the development of contemporary animation as an interactive art. The overall aim of the project is to explore approaches to animation, production, and development. Our research attempts to create a real-time professional movie authoring toolset, a system that changes the content and narrative stream to manipulate the audience. And to use this system to determine how aesthetic design matches an emotional design layout of a given cinematic work of art. So these are my collaborators. I've got the School of Computer Engineering specialists and part of the agent working with me. Some people from the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering that are working on a sensor system. So we have cameras set up around that we're trying to determine the facial meaning of facial expressions and gesture, body gestures in a group, in a small group, a confined space as well, so that we don't have to sample too many. The idea was to create this system that's like in Disney. Disney back in the 40s used to have this thing called the sweat box. So animators would go into this little screening room, and Disney would watch them, would watch their work, and he'd say, "Well, that isn't any good. You got to redo it." And so they get all sweaty. So they call it the sweat box. So that's what I'm trying to do, is create an automated sweat box that links to narrative as well, or actually dialogue. So there's a dialogue aspect and a visual aspect to it. So this is basically the layout of what we need to do and what the people are doing in it. So mine is more on the artistic creation, but being the primary investigator on it, I'm kind of leading the push in where we want to go. The computer engineering team, strangely enough, the engineering people, want to do interactive narrative, and I'm more interested in focusing in on like what a chatbot does, is personality, interactive personality, some character that you can actually direct. Tell, okay, do this and then do that, and it runs through and does it, and it kind of does it like you would tell somebody like a well-known actor who kind of improvises it out as it goes through it.